Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking you knew damn well I was going to do a follow-up to the 3DO FPGA Core released on MiSTer FPGA, because in that video I asked you guys for more games you wanted to see stats on the current core. That's exactly what we're going to be doing today. 4 games you specifically asked to see running on SRG 320's work in progress MiSTer FPGA Core. Because for an initial release, this thing is absolutely doing like 95% of what an actual 3DO console would do, and I've yet to hit a game that I can't run, I can't play, and I can't enjoy. Before we get too far involved though, to be a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, I had a metric crap ton of requests for Rash, because in my opinion, and in most people's opinion, the 3DO version of the game is absolutely the best compared to any of the other Rash releases, and this from start to finish just seems to be playing exactly like you would expect on real 3DO hardware. Now, there's not going to be any audio soundtrack samples for this one because it is all licensed music, and that just isn't really going to work whatsoever. But I remember playing Rash on the Sega Genesis back in the day, and then when I actually got a 3DO console as a kid, I found a used copy of Rash, and it looked so different on the back of the box. I figured, hey, for like $25, why don't I give it a try? And I was absolutely blown away by just how much of an expanded version of Rash this truly is, and still to this day, even if the frame rate isn't perfect, it is one of my favorite 3DO games to play. Now, as far as the performance here on the core, everything is running, everything sounds correct, the controls are responsive, and it really just feels like playing Rash on real hardware. And that really is the ultimate end goal of something like MiSTer FPGA, obscuring the line between real hardware and actual FPGA recreation of that hardware. So honestly, Rash so far, there really isn't anything I can point to say it's not working correctly. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me what version of Rash did you play back in the day, because I feel like 99 out of 100 people only ever encountered the Sega Genesis version of the game, which in and of itself was absolutely a 10 out of 10, but somehow the 3DO made a new version of it also a 10 out of 10. And it's one of those games, if you grew up with it, you absolutely love it, and here in full 3D, it just absolutely excels, because all of the buildings to the side of the road are going to be made out of polygons. All of the vehicles here are going to be polygonal as well. Obviously, your rider has a little bit more of a sprite look to it, but otherwise, this was really promising when it released, and it really showed that 3DO was having that 3D come home. And the only thing that the 3DO really failed at is its pricing model in stores, in my opinion, because all of the consoles were licensed out to different manufacturers. They had to make profit off the sale of the hardware compared to every other console before, where it would be sold at a loss and they would make money back on the sale of games. So honestly, if 3DO hadn't sold for $700 at its initial launch, had it sold for like $300 or even $350, I think we might be living in a world where you're playing the 3DO M5 or M6 at this point in time. But FPGA gaming is one of the reasons why retro gaming is making a comeback. So many new people are buying consoles like the Superstation 1 or different MiSTer FPGA builds that you really are seeing just a ton of new movement in all of this retro. And obviously I think a lot more people are going to be discovering 3DO soon, and that definitely makes me very happy, because it's one of those things. I've always loved the console, and I think a lot of people, as they decide to play it, will end up finding stuff to love too. And all of the FMVs and Rash work perfectly fine, but again, no music sample because I don't want to get flagged. Now moving over to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, this is one of the best ports of the game to ever exist, and even at this point in time, you can obviously play the arcade original on MiSTer FPGA with Hotego's cores, or this game on any number of other platforms. Back in the 90s when this came out, this was about as close to arcade perfect as a port of Street Fighter 2 could possibly get, and that's why I'm really not surprised that there were a metric crap ton of comments asking to test this one as well and asking if it runs. And this is another one, if there's anything wrong with it, I just absolutely cannot tell. But I am not the best Street Fighter 2 player in the world. A big thanks to Andy D for helping with some of these captures as well. It's one of those things, you might be able to feel a difference between real hardware, but it's really hard to kind of find out even when you pause the screen. I could just say that is a screenshot from real 3DO hardware and you'd all believe me. Let's do the first soundtrack sample, because again, iconic music, amazing on the 3DO, and I'll be right back with more games to show you that work on the current test core. Now, if you weren't wearing headphones, you might not be able to actually hear, but there is a very light clicking underlying the audio tracks there, and that's something that we've seen in other cores when they are still in development on MiSTer FPGA. And it's basically a lot of cores that use CDs as their audio. We've seen it on PlayStation 1, and we've seen it on Sega Saturn, but outside of that little bit of clicking, again, I could tell you right now that this was footage from a 3DO console, and it would be hard-pressed by anyone to be able to refute that outside of the fact that the image is so clean, because getting this level of quality video-wise out of a 3DO requires modifications, and even though in my opinion it has the best S-video out of any console, it's still not as good as HDMI. Now moving over to an actual new game still in development that just got its demo release, this is Terminus, and if you can't tell already, it is a first-person shooter. But the big hook on this one, other than the fact that the demo is insanely fun and Doom-like, is the fact that this is running absolutely at a blisteringly fast frame rate for any sort of first-person shooter on the 3DO. And it really goes to show there are still fans of this hardware out there, and now that there is an FPGA core and more people might start playing and enjoying the 3DO, I think you might see even more movement on Homebrew, because if somebody released this honestly for the Sega Saturn or for the PlayStation 1, it would be getting a hell of a lot more attention than it would be if it was made for the 3DO, and that's just a bummer, because still, again, there's that perception out there from some joke videos on the internet and YouTube from back in the day that the 3DO is nothing more than a dumpster fire of a console. I'm not here to tell you that it's going to be PlayStation 1 or Saturn N64. I'm here to tell you that if you actually take a look into the library of the 3DO, you're going to find a metric crap ton of fun stuff to play and some really innovative stuff as well. And Terminus here really shows that there is a lot of horsepower left in the 3DO, especially with modern software development kits and tooling, because even though the 3DO ecosphere isn't very big, myself included, it's one of those things, people are dedicated to this hardware and so many people research it and develop new things to make these games possible, and being able to test a new game that isn't even finished yet on a work-in-progress FPGA core where SRG320 probably didn't even have any idea that Terminus existed shows just how good this core is in its first iteration, because a lot of times homebrew games might use a function or call to the hardware that never got used back in the retail days it was discovered via research like we see on the N64, but here it is working 100% perfectly as far as I can tell, but I actually have to put this image over on my 3DO to test it on real hardware. Let's go into the next soundtrack sample because the music and sound effects here are quite fun, and I'll be right back with more. So definitely watch out for Terminus when it gets released. I will definitely do a review video because this one is 100% promising and I can't wait to see more. But moving over to the one game that does not have a translation where it has a translation on every other platform, Policenauts originally came to the 3DO before you saw it on stuff like Sega Saturn and PlayStation 1, and I hope something like an FPGA core makes people want to go in and translate it, because it is still one of the best visual novel games ever made, in my opinion, the best game Hideo Kojima ever made, and yes, that includes all of the Metal Gear games. But again, I love this sort of thing, so I'm definitely impartial. And I'm going to make you watch another soundtrack and FMV video sample right after I just gave you the music from Terminus, because this next piece of music, 10 out of 10, one of the best things ever set to a video game. So we'll listen, watch, and I'll be right back. Now, there's three distinct reasons I made you watch and listen to that clip. One, because you can see the FMV quality is there with no issues whatsoever. Two, the audio quality is also 10 out of 10 and sounds exactly like it would sound if I put my Policenauts disc in my 3DO. And three, it's my channel, and if I can make you listen to the theme of Policenauts, I'm absolutely going to do it. Now this is one of those things, of course, if you want to play this and you don't read, write, or speak Japanese, there'd be no reason to actually play it on the 3DO Core, but it really does make me hope that someday we will see a translation for this, because obviously the entire script has been translated and we have translations on every other platform. So it is something I would love to see come to the 3DO, but honestly it's something that I don't expect. But if you do speak Japanese, or if you just want to play through each game with absolutely no understanding what's going on, then everything here, at least in the introductory sequence through to the first gameplay bits, seems every bit as good as if I played this on the 3DO. An interesting fact, I actually first played Policenauts with a printed out walkthrough guide and translation on the 3DO back, God, it was probably like 15-16 years ago. I still remember having to drive to the UPS depot because for some reason they said my address didn't exist and didn't deliver the game. I think I bought it from maybe Play Asia Sealed or some strange place like that, and even though I had to read that walkthrough and translation more than I looked at the screen, I absolutely had an amazing time, and it is still one of my favorite gaming memories of playing through a game that I had no idea what was going on. I've only ever done that a few times. The next game I played was the original Yakuza 3 when you could only get it physically on a Japanese PlayStation 3 import. Obviously I went back and played it again when it came out in English, but it's one of those things. I have an absolute fond memory of Policenauts in the 3DO, and it looks and sounds and plays amazing here. And it's one of those things. It originally got its start on the 3DO as far as home consoles are concerned, so it really is a fun lineage. But that's the current testing situation with the 3DO Core. If you want to see more of these videos, leave me a comment down below and recommend me some tests, because I gotta do views if I'm going to keep up with it, because unfortunately 3DO doesn't really bring in the crowds on MiSTer FPGA like everything else does. But maybe I'll put up a members only video if you guys are interested in that. Tell me down below as well. It's not something I do, but maybe for this I could. But if you have any questions, leave them down below. Otherwise we are done. I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video and enjoy 3DO. Bye bye.